And lastly here, Joseph from Connecticut. What do you think was their better feud? Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels from 2003 or Jericho versus Shawn Michaels from 2008? There's only a 5-year difference, but with the '03 feud, we got their WrestleMania 19 Classic, while in '08 we had that great ladder match. Which do you think is better? You're asking me better feud. I mean, I don't think there's any comparison whatsoever. I think the feud in 2008, by leaps and bounds, was better because the feud in 2008 is one of the best feuds in the history of WWE. And I've been going back recently and watching more of that stuff from that feud while I'm reading Jericho's book. Because in his new book, he talks a lot about the feud with Michaels and each of the matches and the meticulous planning that went into it. And in some cases, the not so meticulous planning that went into it. These two guys were so damn good at what they did, it wasn't rocket science. They can come up with a simple plan and execute it, and it just worked. So he talks a lot about that feud in his new book, which, by the way, you can pick up the audio version of Jericho's book using our Audible URL, audibletrial.com/Solomonster, cheap plug. But that feud, you know, I went back and watched the street fight at Unforgiven, which was the night that Michaels got his revenge and he beat Jericho, and he beat the hell out of Jericho in that match. I mean, they really laid it in, and Jericho's all busted up and cut up, and then he kind of sneaks back out there at the end of the show and wins the world title in the scramble match. I just thought that was really well done. That then led to the ladder match in October, but they had a series of matches that year, all of which were, at the very least, good. And in terms of the ladder match, that's one of the best ladder matches in WWE history. I mean, according to Jericho, Vince McMahon himself decreed it the best ladder match up to that point in WWE history, which is pretty high praise. I can't disagree. I might have to think about that and really go back and look at some of the great ladder matches that they've had, but it's way up there if it isn't number one. So you're talking about a feud that, you know, yielded at least one of potentially the company's greatest matches, and the storytelling and the angles they did from the moment that Jericho rammed that Geritron 6000 or whatever it was into Michael's face, which was so poetic if you think about it, because you think back to the barbershop, right? When Michaels first broke away as a single star, and what did he do? He turned on his partner and he threw him through the plate glass window. Well, all these years later now, Michaels has this glass or fake glass television set rammed into his face, and they did the whole thing where his eye was all messed up and he might have to retire. And you know, he tells us the story in the book. You know, McMahon wanted the two of them to have a match at SummerSlam, and they were like, "No, you can keep this going, man. Why don't we just play this up and we'll pretend like Michaels is going to announce his retirement, but I'll come out." And they came up with the whole idea for the angle with his wife, which turned a little more real than they had intended it to be. But, I mean, best feud in this company probably in the last decade. Are you kidding me? It was awesome. And I don't find myself going back to the year 2008 very often, getting nostalgic and watching stuff. If I'm going back in time on the network and watching stuff, I'm watching stuff from the 90s. I'm watching stuff from the 80s, maybe the early 2000s, maybe. But here I am going back to fucking Unforgiven in 2008, which is a show I had completely forgotten about. And I'm watching this stuff, and I'm like, God damn, this stuff is really awesome. Jericho, that whole period was awesome. You know, even the stuff with Rey. I went back and watched the match he had with Rey Mysterio in '09 when Jericho won the Intercontinental title and ripped Rey's mask off. Jericho was on fire during that whole period. That, like, 2-year period there was easily the best period of his career in terms of his performance, his character, his matches. I'd put that up against anything he did in WCW or his first run in WWE.